Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Welcome to Board Games Anonymous, the podcast where everyone is welcome at the table, but of course, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And this is episode 512, Best or Worst Game Ever. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us unlock a brand new episode, but especially our new producer, Brian. Thanks so much, Brian. You rock. All right, friends, we are back, and of course, we always talk about the latest and the greatest, but typically we don't talk about the best and the worst. And it turns out a lot of people have very strong feelings about this, Anthony.
Yeah, everything is the best or the worst.
And no in between. No in between.
Well, it's the internet. It's 2025. This is the way the world is. You know how it is.
It's a thing.
I always roll my eyes at it. Even if something I hate, I'm like, it's not a 1. Like,
sometimes it's a 1.
What's a 1, really? Like, it's just a box of dice that don't do anything. I don't know. Like, what's
remember
a 1?
There was a game, Box Full of Rocks?
That's a 1, because it doesn't do anything.
But sometimes it beats you at trivia questions.
Yeah, that's true. Dumb as a box of rocks.
It's a gimmick. But no, sometimes there are broken games. But these are not the broken games. These are the games that people, for many reasons, which we'll talk about during our feature here, is rating the game a 1 for very strong and passionate reasons. Maybe you have rated a game for a very strong and passionate reason, and a lot of people have followed suit. Or maybe on the other side, you've rated it a 10 because it's the most glorious cardboard creation that has ever graced the table, and so has a lot of other people too, for some reason.
Or nobody's played it, and there's a lot of other reasons going on behind the scenes. So we'll talk about
No, that does not happen.
No, never. No one would ever rate a game a 1 or a 10 sight unseen. Who does that?
I love that when a game starts getting ratings and it's not even produced yet.
We're going to talk about a bunch of them today. Yeah.
That's going to be fantastic. And these responses, man, I mean, these are great. This is just a lot of fun stuff that we're going to be talking about. So stick with us because a lot of these suggestions come from all of you out there. So really appreciate that. And of course, the voice of the gamers is here to play. But Anthony, before we get into all that kind of fun stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's happening with BGA. So why don't you fill us in?
Yeah, so we talked about this the last couple of weeks. We're going to be at the Level Up Retreat in Woodbridge, New Jersey, on January 31st through February 2nd, which is like 2 days from now. So yes. If you're in the area and happen to be near here, you should stop on by. We're going to be there all 3 days. We are playing games. We're hanging out. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you should definitely join us and hang out. That's what we're doing. It's one of those cons.
Yeah, I'll also be doing a panel presentation on Friday at noon or at 1 o'clock. I'm not sure yet. They have us locked in for a 2-hour block. So it's either 12 or 1 on neurodiversity, mental health, and accessibility in tabletop gaming. So there will be a nice little panel there of experts talking about all those fun issues. And again, as always, about getting as many people as possible to the table to play some great games, or again, trying to find some great games that fit certain people the best way possible. Because there's a lot of games out there, man.
Yeah.
And there's a game for everybody, just like there's a game for everything.
Literally everything. It's crazy. Flying fish. Who knew?
No, that can't be a thing.
It's a thing.
No.
There's a game. It's coming out. It's crazy.
Flying fish?
Yeah, flying fish.
I would never be on the cover, would it?
No, it's that. You would think that, but you'd be wrong.
Oh, no. It's not just some throwaway card at the bottom of the deck that no one ever plays because it's so ridiculous?
No, it's the cover of the box, and even the name, which makes no sense, is based on that picture.
Oh, my God.
It's crazy.
I love the fact that, again, people have enjoyed the meme. I've enjoyed the fact that people have been upset with people who have enjoyed the meme. And I've enjoyed the fact that people like the meme is dead. And there is Jamie Stegmaier sitting in the back enjoying the heck out of all this because he's made the meme the game.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's just enjoying the meta of the whole thing. And everyone else is just talking about it. He's just like, yes, my children. Talk more.
Yeah.
Spread the word. Of the
Are
fish.
you buying the game? Then I don't care what you say about me.
And most people will. I've heard early reviews, have not played it. We'll probably play it next weekend, in fact.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like it's a little more slimmed down, a little more simplified. And people are happy about that.
That's good. Yeah. I'm always willing to try it. I'll make fun of it all day, but I will play it.
And the fun is good fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. It's a silly thing.
It's a silly thing. We like to have fun.
Yeah. So yeah, check us out at Level Up Retreat. Join us, attend, participate. It'll be fun. The other thing that we have going on is this last Saturday, we completed our BGA Fantasy Board Game Draft, the first iteration of this over on the draft board. And we have 11 teams that have drafted 4 to 5 games each. And we're going to be updating you every month, starting next week.
Yay!
So next week, we're going to go through, and the way we're doing this, because a couple of people have asked me, like, the hotness changes every day. How are you doing this? Well, I can't check it every day. I don't plan on checking on it every day. But every week when we record, sit down and we're going to look and see which of these games is on the hotness, and that'll count towards the point for the month. If it is on there during the month on one of the 4 or 5 times we check the list, then it will get a point for that month. And every month we're going to go through, we're going to share, we're going to tell you, like, this team has these ones, this team has these ones. These are the games that made it on the list. These are the ones that didn't. Here's why maybe they didn't. So it's like a new fun spin on our BGG hotness with the draft and all the people participated, which, by the way, that was a lot of fun. It was a really cool way to spend a Saturday afternoon. Just sitting there and like shooting stuff on the chat while everybody's drafting things. Like the first game that I drafted on our behalf for BGA's team, at least 2 people were like, I knew you were going to take that. You took that game. I wanted that game. And I was like, yeah, of course I am. It's on the hotness right now. Why would I not draft it?
Anthony's dropping some points there.
Yeah. I was like, we drafted last. I did that on purpose. I made us last. And I was like, it's still there. It's still there. It's on the hotness right now. It's a free point. I'm going to do it.
My friends, you have taken up the challenge versus the Chatfield. He's gonna play some games against you, man.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and obviously we'll be talking about it every month and calling out everybody who put their drafts in, like who did well, who did not.
Yeah. So next week you'll be able to cheer along with the teams that'll be playing the season out. And again, there's been such a really positive response, and we're really happy about this, and we're so glad to have so many more Patreon backers on board because we want to really, flush out this league, have everybody play, have everyone have a team, have everyone do the upcoming drafts that are going to happen, and just kind of build the community here, play with some games in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool.
All right, Anthony. So that's what our friends are saying about the draft. What are our friends saying out there in the world? How are the reviewers reviewing the reviewers here?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, so obviously we're on all the places. You can listen to us everywhere. Wherever you happen to be listening to us now is probably good. And what we would ask of you, because it helps us get out to more people, is to leave a quick review. Like, it can be 5 words. I don't care. Just say, hey, these guys are awesome. Please listen. It does all the world to us. It's really awesome just to hear what you think. We know there's a lot of you out there. We'd just love to hear your feedback. So,
to be fair, though, we would really appreciate a haiku.
Yeah. Spend some time on it. Like, legit.
I mean, come on, people.
Yeah, if you want me to read it on the show, it better be good.
And we will.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a review here next to the one I'm about to read that just says very nice.
Which is also very nice of them to say.
It is very nice, yeah, but it's not like I'm not going to go out of my way to like highlight that at the top of everything because there's other ones that are more interesting and longer and more detailed, but it is very nice.
To be fair, Anthony, we've never done this before. In 11 years of podcasting, over 500 episodes, we've never been like, hey, we're going to shout these out. So maybe people didn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe people will go back and write something, that they want to hear on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Become podcast famous.
Shout someone out, make a joke, go for it, man. Have fun.
Ooh, jokes and haikus?
Yeah, haikus in a joke. Joke and haiku?
How about a knock-knock joke? Can we get a knock-knock joke out of that?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
All right, so Steve on Spotify left a review, left a comment on an episode, said, thanks for all the hard work making these shows over the years. I do enjoy listening and have managed to hear most episodes of the last 3 years since I discovered you. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's not haiku or knock-knock joke, but
I mean, it could have been a haiku and I just read it wrong. You want to count it up?
I'm really happy about Steve here. I'm feeling some good vibes. I was expecting knock-knock joke.
All right, knock knock.
Who's there?
Thanks for all the hard work making these shows over the last years.
Thanks for who?
Yeah, exactly. Steve on Spotify.
What he said. There you go.
Exactly.
We did a thing.
Yeah. So yeah. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody. It's every time I see one of these pop up, I'm like, oh man, someone took the time to do that. That's amazing.
It makes our moms proud. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It really does. Yeah. Like go in there and be like, oh, we got this many reviews, this many people. So, if you have a spare second, toss it up there. It's awesome. And yeah, we'll read it out on the show.
Yeah. I mean, again, if you're watching any kind of media or you're familiar with anything that's happening in the world right now, media platforms are up, down, left, right, inside out, dropping off, popping back on, and going to be banned all in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird. It's a very strange world, and we hate to ask. And again, it's kind of weird, but the algorithm is a thing. So share the podcast with publishers, designers, artists, friends, family, and especially the social media algorithm out there, because it makes a big difference.
Yep.
Thanks again. All right. So that's everything that's going on out there. Everything's going really great, Anthony. We're enjoying and having a good time. So now it's the time to roll, my friend. Let's start up with a roll for the preview.
Yeah. What do you got?
All right. Well, I'm going to not necessarily super deep here, but this is a game that I've talked about extensively. I've done previews of this. I've done reviews of this. I've talked about the expansions for this. This is Darwin's Journey, Oceania, that's currently on Kickstarter.
Okay.
All right. So you remember me talking about Darwin's Journey, Anthony, right?
At length, yes. The game, then the expansion that needs to be played with the game.
It's always a problem. Like you and I, when we talk about tabletop games, and we have so much to say about tabletop games, that obviously we have a podcast. That's why we do this. But also, it's just like when I try to talk to you, I'm like, Anthony's going to hear me talk about tabletop games for an hour plus. Let me just give him this is what you need to know. And then I think more than any other game in recent memory, when I talk about Darwin's Journey, I have to be like, look, I'm going to get a spreadsheet. We're going to get some flowcharts. We're going to get a globe out for some reason. And I'm going to tell you how you're able to play this game, in an effective and fun way. So we've talked about this a lot, Anthony. This was a game that I backed on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
I backed all the things because the pedigree of the designers here, and obviously the theming, the thematic gameplay here, it was all in. This seemed to be a very good campaign. Like, again, it had a lot of good stuff to it. Then when I got to this table, if you remember, when I was playing this game, I was just like, I don't know what went wrong with this.
Right.
And it was a very expensive Kickstarter for what it was. And I was just like, how is a game, again, well presented on Kickstarter, but when I got it to the table with friends at the table and we're playing it, and I was just like, it's not bad, but it's also the most generic presentation of a game that has like a lot of detail into it.
I remember this very specifically because you never ever do this. I do this sometimes because I'll play half a game and then come back the next week and play it some more and then play it. Like, I reviewed Voidfall for 4 weeks. But you never like review a game and then like a week later you're like, actually, I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to re-review it. But I remember this specifically. I went to look it up. It was like 3 years ago. There was 2 episodes in a row. You're like, Darwin's Journey. Ugh. It's a play, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the next week, you're like, Darwin's Journey, Fireland expansion?
And I did a preview of this way back in the day, too. So, like, these were the dark days. I mean, was this part of the lockdown? Was this part of that lockdown period, too? Or just before it?
It was after it.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was not really after it. It was like in the vapors after. It was 19 or 2022.
Okay,
but
sure. So
but,
we were coming out to the table. We were getting games to the table.
Yeah, like you got it played.
Yeah.
It's like I was really relying on you because I have my finger over the button. I'm like, I can order this. They are available.
Yes.
I want this game. And you're like, it's no good. And I'm like, oh, okay. Never mind. And then the next week you're like, just kidding.
Yeah.
Get all the stuff. I'm like, oh, okay.
And again, you and I have talked about this a lot. This is, again, this is not just, we can talk not just about a pot. It wouldn't just be, it could be its own, I don't know, like infinite amount of time to talking about crowdfunding, all the good, the bad in between.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very big campaign. It's a very expensive campaign. It has a lot of components to it. It has a lot of extras unnecessarily. Well produced. Artwork is great. A lot of great. Just like there's so many different dynamics at play here. The base game itself was so pedantic and pedestrian and generic. And again, it should have been everything. It should have been. It should have had more life to it. It should have had more dynamics to it. The wax seals that you'll be able to upgrade your workers. So, it's a standard worker placement game, and workers also travel and the ships travel on the bottom board, but being able to upgrade your workers. So then now when you take action spots, it allows you to take additional action spots or higher level of action spots. So that was very smart and cool, because if you've played any number of worker placement games, they become very pedestrian and they're very basic. And you're just like, oh, okay, I put a guy here, you block here and there. But this was supposed to like enliven that kind of dynamic. And it just wasn't enough to lift the game to be like a solid play, even though it had considerable kind of components and dynamics to it. The Fireland board and some of the other minor expansions that come along with that kind of expansion kit that goes along with it, the mini expansions, makes the game fundamentally better in like a significant way. The map board itself is actually playable because now you have multiple ships and multiple travelers and they could hit more areas. There's additional worker placement spots that let you do extra things because, again, you are very limited to what you can do, which is not a bad thing for a game. I know you like that, that kind of tightness, Anthony.
Yeah.
But not being able to do the fun part, like playing with like one arm tied behind your back because of just the limited kind of spaces, like, and I know that's always been a gripe of yours, which is like, if you don't get to do a thing on your turn, then what are you doing there? Especially if you're waiting for a turn.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And this game, like I played it after you talked about it and you're like, did you play with the expansion? I'm like, oh no, not yet. And you're like, well, why not? There's no game there. And
there's no game
that was
there.
my experience. I played it. I'm like, I feel like there's a good game here, but I didn't have fun.
Yeah. And I think it's a very sad part to this game. And again, we could talk about the dynamics another time because that's a longer conversation here. But now they have another expansion for this. This is Darwin's Journey, Oceania. And this adds a lot of additional kind of, same like they did last time. You have, what they consider a new game experience. I don't really consider it a new game experience. I consider it more of the same. We've talked about this a lot, Anthony. Remember that episode we did about like expansions? Like expansions do like one or like five of the 5 different things that they always do. And typically when we talk about expansions, like, is this more of the same? More of the same is not bad.
No.
And again, if it's good, it's good. Sometimes it's unnecessary. But here, this was one of the few games, and we've talked about this a lot previously. We've done episodes, if you remember, where we've talked about like essential expansions. And I'm an expansion freak. Like, I want to be a completionist of having all the things. So This one, obviously, instead of collecting specimens, just land specimens, now you're collecting ocean and new animal specimens to add to your kind of survey board and your research board. So that's nice. That's a little bit of a different kind of dynamic if the game is kind of played out. There's also a post office, which allows you to do more stuff with your tiles. There's a university that allows you to get an additional wax seal, which again allows for more diverse placement. There's also village campsites. Again, it allows you to put more tents out there. Probably the most dynamic action to this, I mean, beyond the new map here that comes along with this, is there's a hazard track.
Okay.
So you if you remember way back when, remember that survival, I'm trying to remember trying to pull together all the information where you had to roll dice, and if you rolled the dice, remember it was like it had different scenarios in it, and it was on a bunch of people on an island, they had to survive, and you could just take the win, but you typically would take damage, or you could roll the dice.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Friday, it was one of those kind of survival kind of games. It's escaping my memory at the moment. It'll come back to me. And what was really cool about that was you encountered different things on the island. Now, maybe this comes back. This is what, Anthony, this is as far back as Myriad.
Right. Yeah. It was like the Atlantis one, right? Like the Fate of Atlantis or something?
No, I think it had a different name. We'll come across it. But you would come across like a spider, and like you could avoid the spider or whatever, but like it would go back into the deck. So there would be other consequences that would come up later. So maybe you were bitten by the spider,
right?
And it doesn't affect you immediately, but if it comes up a second time, then it affects you.
Okay.
So this hazard track is trying to be very thematic. So as you're exploring, the hazard track moves up, and the more hazards that you encounter, you trigger end round penalties. Okay. So no longer is it just like running through the jungle because things happen. Now it's like run through the jungle, but also kind of, manage and mitigate the kind of damage that happens here.
That's cool.
So again, I think that the base game itself, way too limited, hands behind its back. The Fireland board with all the extra stuff that comes along with the little expansions, the Darwin expansions of, kind of opens the game up in a meaningful way. And then I guess with this game, or this expansion here, it opens it up a lot more, but also they want to kind of keep you a little bit back from running crazy. So they've learned their lesson that they have to let you do more things, but they're also going to penalize you from doing those things, which can be a happy medium. Feld is really well known for doing that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good number of Feld's games is like, and negative points.
Yeah. I like that, though. I like when things get more powerful, but you have to, like, there's a trade-off. Like, yes. Teotihuacan had that when they added in the asymmetrical powers.
Yes.
So, like, okay, you get extra wood every time you go to this location. Yeah. You get extra resources, but you're not allowed to go to this location at all.
Sure.
Like, oh, that's tough. How do I manage around that?
Yes.
Like, so I like the idea of, here's some cool new thing you can do or extra stuff you're going to get, but the negative to that is this, and now you need to balance that and mitigate it. And it complicates the formula without adding anything really it's not cumbersome. It's just more depth.
Yes.
Right? Which I like. We talked about this when we had Jeff on the show. Like, I'm all about when we can add depth instead of breadth.
Yes.
Like, don't add more rules to the game. Just give me more complicated decisions with what's already there.
Yeah. Because I love that idea that you can risk it if you want to risk it, but you don't have to. And actually, remember, the game is Robinson Crusoe. Adventure on the Curse Isle.
Yeah, well, couldn't I think of that one? Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the one with the dice and the cards that, like, you can either be successful in collecting firewood or roll for it and chance it.
Right.
And I love that mechanic because that's very much true in life, right? Like, you could either be very patient and build, a pathway, or you could just kind of, jump over a thing and risk it. And the fact that those cards come back to hurt you a second time is a really cool mechanic.
Yeah.
So, I like that mechanic. I'm really glad that's in here. Anthony, if you're considering backing this, you have until Wednesday, February 5th to back this. So a few days after this kind of gets posted out, they've already tremendously surpassed their funding goal. Always kind of a silly thing. I think their funding goal was $31,000, and
Uh-huh.
they're currently funded at $382,000+. If you do want this, obviously they have a lot of different versions of as far as how much you want to pick up, if it's the base game or the expansion. If you want literally everything, it's going to cost you about $180 US. If you're just looking for the expansion itself, you're talking about $37, which is, considering the price of everything right now, not too bad. But also, you can wait for retail too. That's a thing that happens.
Okay.
Because it doesn't seem like there's anything like specifically new, or like you have to have this now, or they're giving you like a special thing. There is some stretch goals and things like that. So again, this game has a lot of content. Try to type that out, AI.
A lot. Yeah.
It has that level of content. If you're a completionist like I am, maybe you're going to back this, because again, when it comes together, it comes together really well. When it doesn't, it's the base game. So
Right.
Don't judge this game by its base game. Pick up the expansion and play with the stuff. Again, I know it's hard a lot of times because people are like, these are new players, I don't want to kind of overtax them. Like, nope, play with the extra stuff, play with the expansion, and if you like that, then try this out. All right. Well, that's our roll for preview, Anthony. What about roll for review?
Rolling for review is a game with no dice. So
Aww.
I know we're rolling, but
you're breaking the thematic nature of this.
I know. Ludo narrative dissonance all day long. So I got a new game in that everybody wants, because I couldn't get it at PAX because everybody wanted it. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the trick-taking game.
One game to rule them all.
Yeah, maybe, except there's like 400 Lord of the Rings games now.
Maybe this is the one.
Yeah. What's the new one just got announced? It's like Pandemic Lord of the Rings?
It's Pandemic Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's like the remake of the old Khadizia games coming to GameFound next month.
Yeah.
So
Lord of the Rings is a thing, man. You should check it out.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's not on your top 100 list, man. I don't know.
Yeah. Some people are salty about that, and I don't. I find
man.
It's not that I find it funny, because I understand, but at the same time, I'm like, I still love it. It's still there. Like it didn't go away.
Aw.
So anywho, this is a trick taking game that takes the Fellowship of the Ring, kind of that first half or 2/3 of Fellowship of the Ring, of getting the ring, Bilbo's party, and then getting the ring out of the Shire and off to Rivendell, right? So if you think of the game like Hunt for the Ring, which is that first half of Fellowship, and then the second half kind of going from there to as far as they get before they kind of paddle off on their own. So it's a trick-taking game. It's cooperative. And if you think, oh, that's like The Crew, you would be correct. It is very much like The Crew. So the game takes place over 18 chapters. Now, people have compared it to The Crew negatively because The Crew has like 50 some odd missions.
Sure.
But it's not a narrative. Like, you play The Crew, right?
Yes.
And I don't remember you loving it as much because it's pretty abstract, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not really clear what you're doing or why you're doing it.
Yeah, and the undersea one certainly is like, do you want? I mean, I played it recently. In fact, I played it about 2 weeks ago. Someone was like, "You want to play this?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's the game I have to remember exactly how we're cooperating for a trick-taking game." And then once I remember, and then or every once in a while, someone's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're cooperating here." And then they're like, "Do you want to do another one?" I'm like, "What's another one?" And they're like, "It doesn't matter. It's just another abstraction of like, play this first and then play that." So
yeah, and that one's even worse because the original, it's a better game. It fixes a lot of things, but it doesn't have a story, and it's kind of random because you're building out the functionality.
Yeah,
like, here's what we're doing, and here's how we're piecing it together. This is cool. Fellowship of the Ring is cool because it is the narrative.
Yes, that's what I've heard. I've heard things you mentioning here.
Yeah, like, so you start with chapter 1, which is here's the chapter 1 card. I'll read it to you. When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would shortly be celebrating his 111st birthday with a party of special magnificence, there was much talk and excitement in Hobbiton.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That's the first game. That's what you're doing.
Nice.
And so in the game, you have different character cards. And so the first chapter that you play, it's Frodo, Pippin, Bilbo, and Gandalf, right? That you can choose from. So depending on how many people are playing, you might pick some or all of those characters.
Yes.
Each of the characters then has some kind of objective, what they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the goals, like that you had in the crew, right? So you might have a character. So, for example, win this specific card based on this specific criteria. I think Frodo's thing is to have a certain number of ring cards, which is one of the suits of cards. And so you have things you still need to accomplish. You have to do that cooperatively. So it is like the crew in that. But now you're playing through a chapter where the cards are thematic, the characters that are in it are thematic, and then the game starts layering in new mechanics as you go through the chapters that represent that part of the story, right? So I haven't finished it, right? Like I've played a little bit with the family and with a couple other friends. So I'm up to chapter 6, and I'm not going to spoil what any of this is because it's kind of fun to see what it is. Like if you know Lord of the Rings, obviously you know kind of the general flow.
And I do.
Chapter 1, you're in the Shire. It's the birthday party. Chapter 2, got to get going, Frodo. Come on, get out of the town. you got a ring to move. Chapter 3, it's time to get to Buckleberry Ferry. And like things are going to happen, and they follow that. And it's not like a narrative game. You're not moving stuff on a map. It's not War of the Ring. It's not Hunt for the Ring. It's not any of those games.
Mm-hmm.
But the mechanics change, and new stuff comes in. Like in chapter 2, you get a new mechanic, which is cool. Like immediately they're giving you new stuff. And it takes a little while after chapter 2 to get to more new mechanics. I think it's chapter 5 before you get like another new thing, which is a very silly, fun new thing they put in chapter 5. Again, not going to spoil it. And then they just kind of progress and get a little more complicated, and new characters come in, and new challenges come in, and new bad guys come in. So I don't know, man. Like if the crew had a story, do you think you would like it more?
Yes.
Okay, then you will like this.
Okay.
Because it's Lord of the Rings, but trick taking, and like you've seen the artwork, right?
The artwork is really what drew me to it. I really like that kind of stained glass look to it.
Yeah.
But I'll also go, since you're mentioning the crew, certainly that's one of the things that's kept me. I don't own a copy of that. Like, I'll play it. I don't dislike it, but also I don't have any stories to tell about it. I don't remember any kind of specific dynamics about the game. And it's not to say that it would be easy to create a story around it, but like there's just nothing like 3s, a 4s, and a 3s and a 6 and a pink and a thing. And I'm like, okay, did we win? We won. I'm like, all right, cool. I don't know. So yeah, I think that's good. And I think it's good because even if you're not familiar with the story plays out very simply. And it doesn't require you to know something. It just tells you these cards are here and it does a thing.
Right.
And now I have a context for, oh, when we played that mission and we failed because we didn't do the party thing right. Like, okay, right. I get that. So I like it. I like that.
Yeah. And it's cool. Like each of these games, and I don't know if they get longer as you go further. I hope not, because the whole point of trick taking game is that it's quick. One mechanic that they have that I don't know what I think about yet, and I don't know what you think about this, but there's short victories and long victories. So a short victory is everybody picks their characters, and on the chapter card, it'll have like a star next to characters that you have to pick, and then beyond that, it becomes optional.
Okay.
And so in later chapters, there might be 7 or 8 characters. Like once the fellowship's formed, there's a bunch of characters to choose from.
Sure.
So a short victory would just be like, we won the game.
Yes.
Let's move on. The long victory is all of those characters need to be successful.
Okay.
So you have to play that chapter multiple times until all of them have won.
I like that.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's a cool idea, and the games are short enough. But like at least one person when we were playing it was like, I don't want to do this one again. I want to go to the next one. I was like, well, yeah, but we haven't finished this one. And they're like, no, I'll do the next one. And I'm like, we're going to finish the whole thing in like an hour then. So I do wonder how people will respond to that.
It'd be funny if like if you play a chapter and a certain character doesn't get its win, if that card doesn't carry over to the next game.
I don't know if that happens. That has not
Okay.
happened yet. But it is an interesting thing of like, and honestly, the reason I'm okay with it is like the game is always the same. It's a
Yes.
trick taking game. Like you have 5 suits, they all go up to 8, except the ring, which goes up to 5, and you're just trying to win tricks. But like the thing that the crew did and that this does is that you're not just trying to win tricks, you're trying to win certain cards and tricks, you're trying to win a certain number of tricks, you're trying to win a certain order of tricks.
Sure.
That's the challenge of it. That's why it's cooperative. So if you have a different character, now your goal is different. So it doesn't matter you're doing the same chapter because it's a different game still.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I was just rolled my eyes at him. I'm like, come on, man, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's always the same. We're always doing the same thing.
Well, remember our teaching seminar.
Right.
It's what are the people at the table? What are their goals? Right. What do they want to accomplish? How do they see success?
Yeah.
So some people just want to just win the game. They're not.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple people that I know in my life who are just like, it's a campaign. I'm like, yeah. He's like, we have to get through all of it as quickly as possible because I want to see all the content.
Sure.
It's the binge watchers, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's a new show on Netflix. I'm going to finish it by tomorrow. I'm like, okay. Like, I just finished Squid Game season 2. It's been a month. I'm like, I'm not binging that. I don't have time for that.
Oh no.
But I know people who did. Many people who did.
I've done that. I've done that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so I get it. But yeah, this game it's great. I wish I had more to say about it. That's the trick of it. Like I was like, oh, we'll do roll for review for this one, but it might be short because I can't spoil the mechanics that they add later in the game.
Yeah.
That is the fun of it, is exploring and finding those. Like the story is a story. It's the Fellowship of the Ring. It starts in the Shire. It ends with the breaking of the Fellowship.
It's the first movie.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So it just but there's like multiple things there that are fun. Like, oh, I wonder what this character will look like in this art style, but they don't pop up until like chapter 9.
Sure.
Like there's a couple characters that haven't popped up yet. I'm like, when are they going to pop up? I want to see how they look.
Nice.
Because some of them look a little bit like the movie versions. Like I think the Frodo card looks like Elijah Wood, but some of them do not look like the movie version. Like Pippin and Merry and Pippin do not look like their movie versions. Sam and Frodo, they do. It's I don't know. It's just like a fun thing.
That's cool. So again, you're a big fan of trick taking.
I am now, yeah.
You've owned a lot of games. You used to be not a fan. I remember.
I know, yeah. It's changed over time.
And so, beyond the Lord of the Rings kind of theming here, is this something? Again, maybe this is part of your review here, Anthony. As far as like, is this a buy regardless if you have a bunch of these?
I think so. Yeah.
It's different enough.
Yes. Yeah. It is definitely different enough. So the couple negatives I've seen and I've heard is it going to be replayable once you finish all 18 chapters? The crew is almost infinitely replayable because there's like 50 something missions in the base game. And then in the deep sea game, it's like variable. So it's like hundreds of options. What this does though, is once you finish the game, it tells you how to build the game out to kind of continue playing it like the crew. Where like, okay, now you have this character pool. These cards go into the final game. These cards do not because they're situational. And here's how you kind of, I haven't done that yet, so I can't say if it works. But it seems like they understand that. They're like, yeah, there's a story. You're going to go through the Fellowship, but then you have this finished game that you can just play whenever you want.
So it's like Charterstone, but good.
I hope so. Again, I haven't finished it, but it seems like it.
Dude, you gotta finish and come back.
I'm gonna finish it and come back. Yeah,
right. We'll do this weekend.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we'll get through all 18, but if we're up late, maybe why not?
We're gonna binge it.
Yeah, let's do it. It's good though. Like the thing that always drove me nuts about the crew is that we would sit down and maybe play 15 games, and 9 of them would be the same mission over and over again. Because you just bang your head against the wall with that mission. I'm not saying that won't happen here. Some of these have been harder. But because it's narrative, and because it's designed in a certain way, and because the characters match the design of those missions, it feels more intuitive and it flows more smoothly. And there's less of that blank look on people's faces across the table, being like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? I've lost track of what we're doing. Right.
Yeah.
Which is what the crew ends up being a lot, especially late at night.
It is. And I've that's the thing I don't like about the crew, is that my only feeling about the crew is not to do something stupid to lose the mission for everybody.
Right.
And I love trick taking games, but I just don't enjoy that aspect of the crew, just because it's like, I have to do this one thing or else,
Right.
or I can't do the thing and we're going to lose. So it's like, I can do it. Like, there's an obvious right choice. There's an I can't do anything, so there's just only thing I have is wrong choices. Or there's I made a stupid mistake and everyone's looking at me. Just
right.
like, didn't you have a pink 4? I'm like, oh god, yeah, I have a pink 4.
Yeah. That certainly still happens with this, but I feel like it's less annoying because you know what. I don't know. When you add the theme around it, you can attach. It attaches better. Like, it sticks more in my brain.
It's thematic. And that's good.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like playing a Lacerda game where, like, oh no, it makes more sense if things actually flow the way you expect it to, versus just like widget goes into walk it, you know. But yeah, Fellowship of the Ring trick taking game. It's a buy. Check it out.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. It was sold out at PAX, and I waited online. Just saying.
Same. Disappointing.
Disappointed. All right, now on to our Voice of the Gamers. This week's feature episode, we're going to be talking about the best or the worst game ever, because that's the ratings that people give things.
Yep.
Only the best and worst, nothing in between, my friend.
Yeah. There are games that have like 70% 1s and 10s. Like, come on, people.
It's a thing. So we sent this out to everybody out there on all our social medias, as long as they last out there. And you all gave us a lot of great feedback. And it's really good to hear from all of you as far as coming across and tripping over these things all the time, trying to figure out what games you should be playing, what games you should buy, and obviously what games you should dodge. And for some reason, we thought we were the only one who was burning games.
Oh, why would we think that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We feel bad about when we burn a game, and yet, people here are just like roasting marshmallows.
That's just the internet. That's all it is. Burning stuff all day long. I find it amusing. But the thing is, that's what it is. And then in the off chance when one of us does burn a game that people like, they come after you.
It's the internet, like you said. Bo Burnham was right all along.
Yeah, the number of people who are giving me grief lately saying I hate Ark Nova. I don't hate it. I just don't love it. But that means I hate it because it's either the best or the worst. I still own it. It's right here.
If you think we should kick Anthony off the podcast, I'm down with that. Email me at chris@boardgamersanonymous.com and we'll just find him somebody to replace him. Someone who loves Ark Nova as the Ark Nova loving American that he really should be.
Yeah. If you get an email on that, don't tell me. I don't need to know. It'll make me sad.
Aww.
Oh man. But yeah, we got a lot of good responses. So we pulled some of our own, and we polled the community, of course, and we'll talk through these and why they are best or worst game ever. But also why that happens, because I feel like for different games there's different reasons.
Yes. And we're not going to talk about Ark Nova.
No.
Okay.
Well, maybe.
I'm just
someone mentioned it. So
oh no.
We'll see if we get there.
It's not us.
No. So Facebook, James mentioned it, but we'll see how far we get.
Yes.
All right. So over on the Discord, Crayotho says, and they took this in two different ways. Too many 1s and 10s, which is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They said Scythe.
Yes.
One of the first games that I remember getting bombarded with rankings from people who had never played the game. So, and this is kind of the core of what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Is games that people have not played yet. And this is kind of a unique thing in the age of crowdfunding.
Yes.
And I know it happened in the past. Like, a game would get announced, people get excited, whatever. But in the crowdfunding age, and Scythe is kind of like, it's not the beginning of the crowdfunding age, but it was basically the punctuation mark of like,
it was.
You can make a lot of money selling a board game on Kickstarter. Here you go. And Scythe did it. People get really, really invested, right? You're buy in early. You get all these messages. It becomes like a parasocial relationship with a product. And I honestly don't quite understand it. I've never had that feeling. Like, if I back something, I'm like, I think it could be good. I'm not like, this is the best thing that's ever happened. Everybody must agree with me. It's amazing. But
Sunk cost
that's,
fallacy?
yeah, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. But Scythe definitely had that effect. I remember having this conversation back in the day
Sure.
where it has 15,000 tens
Wow.
out of whatever, like, what is that? So out of 86,000 ratings, 15,000 of them are a straight 10. Like its curve is like super skewed. And early on it was even more skewed. I feel like the ones have dropped off a little bit. But I don't know, people have strong feelings, and I don't think it's unique to Scythe. I think it's Stonemeyer in general brings this out in people.
Sure. I mean, it's the cult of personality. I mean, Stegmeyer he's got Riz, man. He's the Rizmeister for tabletop gaming. He's always been.
Yeah.
And his company has done amazing, great things. But as you said, there is a parasocial kind of relationship. And again, back in the day, the thing that Kickstarter did which was so amazing, which I think they've lost a lot of, and they really need to bring it back, is they built a community. The community had a seemingly active role, dialogue with the designer, and there was a lot of give and take and a lot of feedback, and people felt like they belonged. People felt like they were part of the campaign and the project. They were helping it. They were financially supporting a game that typically would not get out there, and their comments would make the game better, and their community that they built. Because again, this is also back in the day when a lot of people were asked to bring other people in to purchase the game.
Right.
So, and if it hit certain stretch goals, you as a backer got extra stuff. So you were incentivized financially and otherwise to be able to benefit by you going in and giving this a 10, so other people would back the campaign.
Right.
Now it's not really the case. Kickstarter is kind of like we just talked about Darwin's Journey, $38,000 backer rating. It's got almost $400,000. So like, there's no like hitting a certain financial goal. Like that's not a thing anymore. So
Right.
people have a financial investment to it. Just that's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, and they're going to try to, like, I don't know, it manifests in different ways. Sometimes it's conscious. You're like, I want more people to see it. I'll rate it highly. Sometimes it's not conscious. You're like, this is the best game ever. I'm like, you haven't played it, my dude. Like
Sure.
you haven't even sat with the game yet. Like one of my favorite 1 point ratings for Scythe is this person says, disappointed, played 1 2-player game, definitely overhyped. And then went on to explain how their one play was bad. But the game, they just got it in. It was August 2016. They gave it a 1 after 1 play with 2 players, which is not how you really want to play Scythe.
No.
It's just like, where does it's that level of disappointment?
Yeah.
Did they even back it, or is it like their friend was really hyped and they're mad about it? Who knows?
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too. People back games and they're very expensive on crowdfunding, and then they get it and they're disappointed. So like, I have a rating here. Ignore the military robots. It's mostly just resource extraction. I guess maybe you fight once and just get some points, and they rated a 1. And they're not exactly wrong about that. Like, you do want to have the robots, the mechs in play, because they do play a significant, but not necessary. They play a significant role, or they can. So I think a lot of people also were giving this a 1 or a 10 because a lot of people read into, or at least Jamie Stegmeyer did a very good job of kind of marketing as like a true hybrid, where you're going to have these battle mechs fighting it out. And like, yeah, they kind of do that, but only if they absolutely have to. And it's mostly an economic Euro game.
Right.
So, and everyone was kind of disappointed by that.
Yeah, it's like a component mechanical dissonance. Like when you look at the board, you're like, it should be doing this because it's showing me this.
It's troops on the map.
And then when you play it, it's not that.
Nope.
And that's that kind of thing, that disconnect between what you see and expect based on the common language of board games and what the game actually is, can drive people mad.
Yeah.
It really does. It makes people angry.
And again, if you pick up the expansion Rise of Fenris, you can set up the win conditions to be either purely military or purely economic or randomize. So you can play more of the kind of game that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that was an expansion that came out some years later. So
it's like, yeah, full 3 years later.
Yeah, so I'm sure people were already, the boat has sailed at that point. And you haven't still have played Rise of
I know.
Rose.
I still have it
So
downstairs. Yeah.
that could be a game I could bring. That could be a thing we could play.
Yeah, I would love to play that.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
So
Yeah. It's funny too. Like we talked about Stonemeyer just having this effect on people, but Finspan, which we just talked about, which is just now shipping, people are just now getting it and playing it, has 215 ratings. 96 of them are 10s. 41 are 1s.
Wow.
So
Wow.
137 out of 215, like 60% of the ratings are 1s or 10s
Jesus.
for a game that no one's played yet.
Wow, they people are really upset with that joke there. They're really or loving it, I guess, either way.
Well, you get reviews like, this person rating 10 out of 10 to offset the haters.
See,
but then the haters are rating to offset you. Like,
oh no, mutual insured destruction.
Oh, right. Oh man.
Everyone's pushing the nuke button for some reason.
Yeah, it's funny, but that is often what happens with these big new hyped games.
Yes.
All right. So Drew mentions a game that I don't actually know, but I thought was funny. Ready, Set, Battle from 2019.
Sure.
It only has 11 ratings on Board Game Geek. They are all 10.
Whoa.
Right? So I was interested, like, how does that happen? There's only like 4 actual comments. And they're like, very fun, worth checking out. A fun game. I like the human military deck the best. And then the first comment, this game is so good, I love it, etc., etc., blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this is just his family, right? This is just the designer's family?
I certainly hope so.
Right? Because I don't know how that happens. It's a self-published game. I don't know if it was crowdfunded, but obviously not that many people played it.
Maybe there was only that many copies that went out.
Maybe.
I mean, it could have been.
Yeah, that's possible. That is definitely another thing you see, though, like a really small self-published indie type game.
Yeah.
And then they get their friends and their family and everybody else involved. They try to just push it up a little bit.
Good times.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
All right. So Ryan on the Patreon mentions Arcs as a relatively recent release.
Sure.
And this one has an interesting distribution of ratings. Like, it's not a ton of 1s, although there are, a decent number of people who are disappointed with the game. I've talked to people who, like, legitimately are like, I thought I was getting another route and it's this whole other separate thing. I'm like, fair enough. It is not route, right?
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, it's not doing the thing you thought it was doing because it has the same artwork and the same designer.
Yes.
Again, that dissonance.
Yeah.
But it does have about 25% of its ratings are 10s.
That's also kind of weird.
It's really high, right?
It's also a game that it has a lot of content to it, so I can't imagine. Again, it's a lot to go through. Maybe is it your rating on your first try?
That's the thing. Like,
you're not playing the full campaign either way, right?
We never actually reviewed it on the podcast because we only played it the one time.
Yes,
and it felt like a game that needed to be played more.
Yes,
I think we would have given it like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, and it has.
I feel like you landed like a 7. I landed like an 8. Like,
yeah. And it has a whole campaign that you have to play through to really give it a chance. Because I think, again, I think this is the problem with crowdfunding. Like, they give you a game that has a lot of expansions or a lot of extra content to it, and people's initial play of it is their rating. And that's not necessarily wrong, because you have not set up expectations of, like, what is the ideal game. It's like, again, it goes back to, like, how many players can play this game? Well, it plays up to 6, but you should only play with no more than 4. Well, if you play it at 5 or 6, you're going to have a bad time.
Right.
Because it's not really going to manage 5 or 6 very well. And that's a lot of games. Or the game should only play at 2 because it's a long game, a lot of AP. You got to put it on the box. So maybe there's some times like that too, where it's like, this is the base game, that the small box. This is not Arcs. This is kind of a, I don't know, like pre-Arcs. Like, this is just an introduction. Like, maybe that needs to be hard stated in that, because people are going to get disappointed and then they're going to rate you. And again, that first play is really that's it.
Right.
So
it's interesting. I when we started doing research for this, I was like, are people just really freewheeling with their 10s?
I mean, they can be.
I do wonder. Like, I have 5 10s. out of the 4,000 games I've rated. Like, I don't give out 10s very much. I'm like, no, this is like the top.
Yes.
If a game's close, I'll give it like a 9.5. But like you look at this, like Voidfall is a good example. That's a game I did give a 10 to. It's like the most recent 10 I've given.
Mm-hmm.
The most people out of that game have given it a 10. Like 1,500 out of 4,700 ratings. 30% of the ratings on this game are a 10.
I think
I agree, but I'm like, really? Does that many people agree with me? Like, that's a lot.
And I think we should also acknowledge that BGG ratings skew positive.
Sure.
So if it's a 1 through 10, so typically 5's average, right? And if someone said, based on my ratings, I wouldn't want anyone to play a game that's a 5.
Right.
But BGG would be like, hey, that's a fine game that you would come back to. And I'm like, dear God, no.
No, 5's bad.
So, but I think most people also feel that way too. Maybe this is more of an American standard where like 65, 70% is a good game.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we're all raised on the ABCD grading scale.
Mm-hmm.
Like below 60% is bad.
Yeah. And I think BGG has a vested interest in keeping their ratings positive. So I think even if you look at the wording and you go down to like the 4s, 3s, and 2s, it's not a nightmare. Like if a game was legitimately a 1, I would never want to play that game. Like I wouldn't even look directly at the table because the table would just explode in flames.
Burn my eyes.
No, can't look at that.
I'm in pain.
Yeah, that's a problem. Man.
Yeah. All right. So we got a couple more that the listeners popped in for us, and then we'll talk about some others that we noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Viticulture Essential Edition was nominated by John on Facebook, who says the 5,100 people who rated at 10 should have their rating privileges revoked.
Whoa.
Brutal. This one, I feel like the sigma on this one's not too terrible. Like it definitely, the curve is around 8, and it has an 8. People love this game. It is a top 100 game. And there are 5,100 10s, but it's 10% of the total ratings. But this again might fall into the whole Stonemaier like sphere of influence. For me, this game was always just like, it's fine. It's like 7 for me, but I can see how people would love it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm not disagreeing with you, John. That is a lot of people giving this game a 10 when it's just a fine game, but it's not so far off where I'm like, really? A 10?
That's fair.
Yeah. And then we said we wouldn't talk about it, but here we are. Arc Nova.
Oh no.
It's number 3 on Board Game Geek, and I just
look,
I've
said this several years ago. I said this when his first came out. I did. It's on the podcast. You can find it. I think this game is going to be on BGG number 1 at some point.
Yeah, it will. Totally.
It's 100% going to happen. I talked about it. Like, again, it has all the stitched together mechanics from people's favorite games, and it has animals, and people like animals.
People love animals.
They do.
I love animals. I still have it. It's good. Is it number 3 of all time?
No.
I don't think so.
It's
not.
No.
So, out of 50,000 ratings, 14,000 are 10s.
Sure.
People who love this really, really love it. And I don't want to begrudge them. And you're not wrong, people. You're not.
Are they?
They're not. No, they're, if you love it, you love it.
That's true.
I don't know. For me, I don't like games that just mush stuff together. And I don't have to rehash this because I've already annoyed enough of our listeners doing this. But it's, hey, Arc Nova.
I hear you.
Lots of 10s. All right. So over on our side, I know you found a couple and I found a couple.
Sure.
Do you want to rattle off the ones you found?
Go start with the Origins one first. Elder Scrolls.
Oh yeah, Elden
Scrolls.
Ring.
Yeah, Elden Ring. Sorry.
Yeah, Elden Ring.
I think that's fantastic.
The board game. This is from Steamforged, which has like just this very complicated relationship with their backers, and that they do a terrible job, and people keep giving them money. And this game was when did this go on crowdfunding? Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Well, the video game came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's probably 2 years ago. It has a 3.9.
Ooh.
Right? So it has 113 ratings, 68 are 1s, 29 are 10s. The game's not really out yet, so keep that in mind. It's shipping like next month, so it's coming soon. So some of our 1-star reviews, we have Don't Forget Dark Souls. People are still bitter about Dark Souls, which was like 10 years ago.
Sure.
Nothing personal, but SFG, even from Brilliant, can't make a piece of ...
Mm-hmm.
So they don't think the game will be good. And these are all around the time that the campaign ran. The latest attempt for Steamforged to milk an IP for all it's worth with little to no effort in creating a playable game. Price point is absurd. Price on Kickstarters can definitely affect this. People get mad when things are like perceived too expensive. I'm always fascinated at what point people decide something's too expensive, because everything is too expensive.
Yeah, sure.
All these games are overpriced, and then occasionally people are like, no, this one is too far. You've crossed a line.
Jeez.
Let's see here. Overpriced and only exists to push years of miniatures on FOMO buyers. That's like every miniature board game on any of these. I'm not defending this. I just think it's funny. Just, I don't know. It's that, and at the flip side, you do have 29 people who say best board game created yet, all in campaign and cosmetics. This game looks phenomenal. Greatness awaits. So it goes both ways.
It does.
Yeah. So that's Elden Ring. Another one that's fun, which, I mean, it's not fun because it's sad because we both lost money on it. But Madeira, the collector's edition, which is probably dead. We're never going to get it. But I find it interesting that it's still sitting at a 3 and it's not lower, because the game doesn't actually exist and we know we're never getting it.
It does exist somewhere in a Chinese warehouse, supposedly.
Theoretically, yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah, like the comments are like just people venting. And that's another thing that happens with the comments sometimes. It's just people venting.
Yeah. It's understandable. I mean,
this game has hurt me personally. Let me tell you how.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that too. Again, it's a lot of those Kickstarters that did not fulfill, and like people, again, they have no recourse.
No.
So people want to be heard, and again, we've said many things about Madeira. I'm still hoping against hopelessness that actually happens. But
right.
Some other fun stuff here. Mass Effect, the board game, Priority Hazelgas. So this is not out yet. This is out in 2025. So this is coming out. It has 144 ratings and a 10, and it has 71 ratings with a 1.
Yeah.
So again, game's not out yet. Yeah. There's a lot of 4-letter words in some of these. Yeah. So a lot of people are referring to this as insulting fans, a terrible game, worst adaptation. It's disrespectful. It's boring. It's not fun at all. It's a waste of money. And then at the same exact time, this is a tightly refined game with excellent mechanics and achieves everything that it's meant to. Fine product, excellent game. Everything you could want in a game. It surpasses the video game. That seems kind of high lofty. An absolute blast to play with friends. They love the combat. It's doing everything right. Like, it's really weird, and it's scary. And again, a lot of this is just, some of this is kind of people seeing wokeness, or at least what they think is wokeness, because there is pronouns and things supposedly on the campaign. So people are rating this a 1 just because they don't like that. And people are rating it a 10. And a lot of people are referring to far-right people review bombing this because the game uses pronouns. And a lot of people are giving this 10s because, again, they want to push back against that. So, yes. Another great game, hopefully. The Witcher, Path of Destiny. This is from the Witcher series, of course. And again, there's amazing amounts of 10s here for a game that I believe is not out yet. 36 10s, 9 1s. A lot of people referring to this as the best game ever. The miniatures and components are top quality. Everything about this game is great. Me and my friends have played this. It's a fantastic, fun game. It provides everything that you would like. And then at the same time, people are just giving this 1s. Again, talking about fighting it back against the 10s and 1s. Again, it's a very weak game. It's a bad game. It's poor decisions. I mean, it's kind of brutal stuff across the board. Now, those are kind of more the modern games. Some of the other things here, Anthony, Everdell, here again, beloved for so many things, especially the anthropomorphic animals, right? This person gives it a 1. Anthropomorphic animals rarely bring anything of value to the game whatsoever. Worst game ever, gave it a 1. Love Letter, a 1 out of 10. The choices made in the art are very poor taste, hateful even. I don't know why Love Letter. It seems as generic as possible. Why are you saying that? Root,
Is the artwork diverse? That's probably the trigger there.
I don't. I mean, from its quasi historical period, I think at least the base game is fine. Maybe they're talking about the new versions that have more diverse artwork. I don't know, but the base game is pretty standard. It's the same artwork that's used in the other cards of that Tempest universe.
Right.
Root is given a 1. It says that animals were used in a much better way in Aesop Fables. This game is bad on all levels. It's pathetic, and even though it's using modern day mechanics, so that's always fun. Seven Wonders, one of my favorite games of all time. Getting plenty of ratings at 10s, but also plenty of ratings at 1. A lot of 4-letter words again here. Again, people are saying like at least to play 7. But I have other games to do it. This is the worst game ever. I've played so many better games. This is garbage. I can't believe they actually put this game out. It's very unbalanced. It's a Wonderful World is a much better game. I don't agree with that. I think Seven Wonders is better than Wonderful World, but also Wonderful World is also fine. So
it doesn't have to be one or the other, guys.
Here's my favorite. Difficult to describe what a completely joyless game this is.
Yeah.
A weird drafting game where the game rewards you for strategy, but mostly gives you tactical controls, so your strategic paths are often a crapshoot. I don't really agree with that. Like it's kind of known for its drafting. It's not perfect, but someone gave it a bad rating because Amazon was really bad with their delivery and gave it a 1. Someone said they would give it a 0 if they could. Clearly, somebody went science against you, my friend, and it really hurt.
I will say my first play of Seven Wonders, I also did not like it.
Yeah, but a 1? A 0?
I don't rate it after one play.
No, I know.
I don't rate anything after one play. That's crazy.
Okay, Anthony, I have one here for you. Let's see. I'm going to give you the bad reviews here, the 1 reviews, and let's see if you can pick up on this.
Okay.
I'd rather watch paint dry or grass grow. My memory of playing this game makes me want to barf. The Coldplay of modern board game. I can't say
Coldplay of modern board.
Yeah, I can't say the rest of the words there. I've never been waterboard, but I imagine it's similar to an experience of playing this game. I'd rather trade an eye than play this game. All the fulfillment and excitement of 16th century farming.
Agricola.
There you go.
I don't hate it that much.
I'm going to give you one more here, Anthony. An abomination that made me rethink my life. So there you go. See?
Man. See, that's the thing. It's like those people probably had a similar experience to me, and then they go so far down the stretch. I don't think any game makes me feel like that.
Aw.
I like board games, man. Like I like the people I play them with. I don't think I've hated maybe Zaya, but like anything else, even that I think I gave a 3. Like I don't know that I've given anything a 1.
Good times. So again, ratings. Be careful out there, kids. There's a lot of trolls out there, and there's a lot of people with angry emotions and feelings, and we want to say, we hear you, we feel you, but we may not agree with you, because there are other reasons why. And a lot of people use BGG ratings for their purchases. So, give games a good rating. Try to be as objective as possible. And if you don't like something, rip it in the comments, but give it an objective number rating. I would say, Anthony.
Yes, yeah, no, that's just be fair to yourself and to other people. I do want to correct it though. I have given 4 1s. We talked about this on our burn episode.
So I remember that burn episode. We burned.
Yeah, that was fun. There are 4 games that I apparently hated enough to give a 1 to, but it's rare.
I gave 7.
7? Okay,
yeah,
I can see that.
And all of the games that I gave a 1 rating to were broken. Like, actually, when you play the game, there's something about the game itself that just does not work.
Right.
In one case, there's a game called Coaster Park, which is a really nice production, but the actual roller coaster where you're supposed to roll down a marble on this roller coaster does not physically work. So it's getting a 3.6 on Board Game Geek. So
Right.
I'm not burning the game because, I'm upset about it. I'm burning the game because, like, people should know not to purchase this game.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure this is mostly a production issue because this is a game by Scott Alms, who's done the Tiny Epic stuff. So I'm sure he's just as upset as the rest of us are with it, but I would also like my money back, sir. So if you're listening, send me a check, because
Pay me back.
That was not a cheap game. So, but yeah, a lot of fun times, a lot of things that happen like that. So enjoy your 10s, enjoy your 1s. Just watch where you're going, my friends. Just I'm saying. Because in fact, they could be the best or the worst games ever. But until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And we'll save you all the seat at the table. Take care, everyone.
Bye.